This video is presented by the EA Creator Network. Today is a special build video because I am building a home for a viewer who uploaded their Sims family to the gallery. Before we get into the build video, I did want to show their cute little family of 3 with a kitty. It is uploaded by VingedHeart and it is of her and her family, Moira, Zella, and Twyla. They are a spellcaster family, but Twyla is leaning towards being a fairy. And I was very easily inspired as soon as I had seen a spellcaster family. I do love building for spellcasters, so it was very easy to get some sort of idea of what I wanted for the house. Now, today's video, I am just doing the exterior because I haven't finished the interior yet, but I did take a look at their traits and I wanted to make sure that there were rooms and spaces that would allow for their aspirations and stuff. So I am gonna have like music stuff, and I have a barn and like a chicken coop outside. I'm going to have a room in the house that is for crystal crafting, but as well as having like a cauldron and stuff for just like spellcaster stuff in general. And so, yeah, let's get into the video. When I was starting this house, I started this a little bit differently than I usually start my builds because I was writing down the traits of their family and what packs they don't have. And while I was doing that, I decided to kind of draw a general shape of what I thought would look nice and have enough space, which is really just this, and then I slowly add on to it. I want it to have like a multiple story spellcaster crafting room off of the kitchen or dining room. I'm not sure yet because I didn't finish the interior, but this back piece is what I was imagining would be the double layer spellcaster room that would have really beautiful large windows with a lot of like natural light and like a greenhouse space, and it would be able to house like the crystal crafting stuff, things like that. So that was my basis for the shape of this build, and then I kind of just had to hope that I could make the upstairs large enough to fit 3 bedrooms in without having to change my idea of having this like double story skill room, which I'm still hoping is going to come out cute and how I envisioned it. Sometimes if I start a build and I don't finish it within like a couple of days, I tend to get confused on where to pick it back up, but I think I have a clear vision in my head for when I do get around to being able to actually do the interior for this. And one thing that I really appreciated when I was taking this on was that she told me that she didn't have any like preferences and just to do my own thing, which I think is really how I need to approach these sorts of builds, especially like in the future if people do submit Sims for me to build with. I think that it's just easier for me to build what I feel most inspired to do instead of trying to follow exact reference images and things like that. But I am more than happy to follow pack limitations for what packs that you guys have or don't have. I ended up asking in a comment because it kind of like left my head when I was setting this up and telling people they could submit Sims. But if you want to submit a family that I can build a home inspired by, feel free to tell me what packs you don't have in like your gallery description or like a comment on your gallery post. That way I can know, because I do like doing pack limited builds too, and I feel like if people don't specify, I probably would just pick like some core expansion packs that I use all the time that I would figure you'd have if you liked my style, I would assume. But yeah, you could just let me know like what packs I shouldn't use if you do submit something. This also reminds me that there is currently another EA app sale. I believe, I don't know when I'm uploading this, but I believe it runs until September 25th, so this maybe should be up by then, where you can pick some packs up at a discount. And if you do pick anything up and if you would like to support me, I do have a creator code. It is CrackedKyber. You could use it at checkout and it helps to support me. I personally think it's a good time to pick up some of the occult packs if you've been wanting them and you've been kind of like waiting or holding off. But now that it's becoming like fall and Halloween is approaching, maybe you'll be more in the mood to build more like Halloween inspired builds. But yeah, most of the occult packs are my favorites. And I think that if someone uploaded a family and didn't really specify what packs, I would probably lean towards like using just get together and like cottage living. And I don't know, I probably avoid stuff packs and like kits and even game packs, maybe. I don't know. For this one, when I was going into it, I was just going to avoid kits anyway. She did say that she has some kits, but not all of them. And I don't think I want to risk it, so I don't think I'm going to use any kits. And I'm kind of nervous that I accidentally used some packs that she didn't have, but I can always do like a pass through again and see what packs, like if I used any that I wasn't supposed to. Exteriors, it's usually easy for me to not make that mistake because I just use the same sorts of things all the time. It's always from like the same like five packs. My exteriors at least seem to be somewhat pack limited. It's usually when I start doing the interior that I start randomly using one object from a pack and do that like 10 times, which I'm guilty of a lot, especially with the Dine Out candles, because Dine Out really doesn't have amazing build buy stuff, but it does have an amazing candle. And I love that candle so much. It fits perfectly in witchy occult builds. And so I'm like, whenever I look through my builds on the gallery, I'll look to click on which packs I use and what items, and I'll just see Dine Out, and it's always just going to be that one single candle. And for this interior, I think I want to try and just make sort of like the spellcaster and living areas a bit more detailed, but keep the bedrooms a little bit like generic, and like I guess generic in my sense. It'll still be my style, but it'll just have a lot less in it because I'm like, I don't know, I feel like if someone's using this for gameplay, they probably want to decorate their Sims bedrooms dependent on their Sims, and I'll definitely add items that like correspond with some of their interests and stuff. But I think I'm like going to be using just the extra rooms for those sorts of things anyway. The downstairs is a lot larger than I expected, and so I don't know what I'm gonna do with some of the downstairs. Like there's a part all the way to the left where I'm kind of lost right now. I haven't figured out the floor plan for the downstairs. I did the upstairs, and I figured I can just figure out the floor plan of that in the next part. Originally, this was all going to be one part, but I've been kind of just like falling behind on things, and I figured it would be a nice time to pick back up doing like exterior in one part, interior in another part, at least when I feel like that would be best for me in the moment. And I think that that works great for this one because the speed build of the exterior is almost a half hour in itself, which I am always surprised about that, and I say that like all the time, but it's like I just get lost, I guess, doing exteriors that it takes so much time. And I didn't even record me doing the entire landscape because I thought this was going to be all one part. And I was like, this is going to be like over an hour probably if I show everything. And so I decided to like cut out some of the landscape, just like establishing the layout that I wanted to try and figure out, and then I show off like me finishing the landscape. But you'll be able to see a good amount because I really do recycle the flowers I ended up picking out at the start and using that in the rest of the landscape. And it is a really good size lot to add some more like gardening spaces and have enough space for the barn and the chicken coop and stuff like that. I had to move some things over at first because you'll see that I mapped out some of where I wanted things to be, and then I realized that I wanted to fence in where the animals would be just in case. And so I had to like move some things around. So there wasn't as many farming plots as I originally wanted for this build, but there's still plenty around, so it really doesn't matter. And I'm thinking I'm gonna have some places to grow things inside, especially in that double like floor greenhouse. I think I'm going to try and squeeze in some sort of areas to grow plants there too. And now you can see that I am trying to get the floor plan set up before I continued anything with the exterior because I didn't know if this would be big enough. And you could see that the upstairs is very tiny and I need to fit 3 bedrooms up there, and I didn't want to have to use the like greenhouse spot as a bedroom. So I really wanted to try and have enough space where I could actually keep the 2-story thing. I keep getting so confused every time I talk about this like 2-story greenhouse space because I keep forgetting what it's called. And so then every time I have to bring it up, I'm just like, what was this again? Especially because I'm doing this voiceover in multiple parts over multiple days. And so my brain is just not fully there. But I'm looking forward to doing the interior of this. It won't be up next week because I have another build planned for then. And so I want to say that this will be maybe the first week of October. You'll be able to see the interior of this and it'll be like done and uploaded on the gallery. So if you're watching this before that part is up, this won't be on the gallery yet. So you'll have to wait just a little bit, but it will be eventually. But now I am expanding the upstairs a little bit to try and give it enough space without changing the shape and the balance of the build, which was pretty easy to do. The only thing that I really had to change was the rounded roof piece because it was going through the upstairs. And the thing is that if I'm building for myself, sometimes I just don't care if some of the roof is poking through. But because this was for somebody, I was like, I can't keep it like that. So I just changed the shape a little bit, even though it makes the outside look a bit different. I was like, it's fine. I can get over that and ignore it. It doesn't make that big of a difference. So it's like, whatever at this point. And I wanted to make sure that this other tiny bedroom was big enough because I didn't want the youngest kid to have like this super tiny room. And I felt bad. So I was really trying to make it a little bit bigger so that it wouldn't feel so cramped. And maybe I will change some of this around when I do work on the interior. Maybe I'll realize that I could expand the upstairs out a little bit more. So you'll see this exterior. I wouldn't say it is completely finished because when I am going to do the interior, things might change out here. I might add windows in certain places. I might extend the house out a little bit. I'm not sure what I'm going to end up doing yet. But when you have such strange shapes combined together in a house, it's really hard to extend it out in some places. That's why I'm thinking that maybe I can really only do that in a couple of places. And you'll see in a little bit that I have a porch that is on the second level with a staircase leading down, which also complicates some things. So it wouldn't make it like very easy to extend the upstairs out at all. There is going to be a lot of space on the downstairs, which I guess could have like throw a bedroom down there if like really was necessary. I definitely feel like it's a bit weird to have like bedrooms split up that far away from each other. So I don't know how well that would work, but that's just something that I will take a look at when I actually get around to working on the interior. Another thing that might change a little bit is the walls that I choose. I do a lot of it in dark wood and dark brick, but it feels like maybe I should brighten it up just a little bit, which maybe just means adding some more ivy in some places and some more flowers on the walls itself. So that's all stuff that I'll be looking at later on too. But this is the porch that I was talking about where I wanted it to feel like you would come down from the top level of this spellcaster room and be able to go right outside because I wanted there to be a lot of different access points around the place so that it would be easy to move from one part of the house to the other, especially towards the animal areas because there was the bar and the chicken coop. So I wanted to make sure that it wasn't just like a couple of like exit points, but you could go from like multiple different areas. And it would make sense to be able to go from that spellcaster room right outside. And I really like how it turned out. And it was sort of like the first point in me figuring out how I wanted the landscape to be. And I don't remember what I showed and what I cut out. So maybe I'll have to explain some things as I'm working on the landscape. But I did begin working on it from that back porch area with the staircase, and I began to frame that with flowers and then have a pathway starting from there, which I know it's like a bit odd to start the landscape from a back corner that you can't even really see unless you download the lot and you're in the backyard. But that's just how it happened and flowed this time because I was intimidated by the front area and how I would have that flow. And I did try out some different sort of landscaping techniques. I wanted to create sort of like a fake bridge point, which is like not really raised up a lot, but I wanted to try something different and make it seem like there was a land bridge in the landscape. And we'll see if it actually looks like that in a little bit when it does end up being shown, which I think it looks cute. I don't know if it gets the point across of what my like vision was for it when I was first doing this, but I really do love the variety of windows that I used in this one. They're from like all different packs, I think. There's like from Get Together, Life and Death, Enchanted by Nature, and I think wait, is one of them from For Rent? Do they have For Rent? I had to pause and check what I wrote down. They do have For Rent. I was thinking it was Love Struck that they didn't have because I got worried. So I was like, those windows are so pretty. Why would I like overlook that if they didn't have it? But it's okay, I think, unless I wrote the wrong things down. But I really do love the windows that came with For Rent, and I think that they look really nice with all of the other ones that I picked out. And the fact that we have glass walls too is really helpful in picking out some more designs so I don't always have to use the same greenhouse type windows and I could just like try something else out here and there. And you can see that I am starting the landscape now and I was doing it based off of what I would like in like if I was making like my dream house. It would sort of have something like this because I already sort of have like wooden stairs with different landings and I have plants on sort of like railing containers and I kind of wanted that feel for, but you can't put plants on the railings itself, so I had some hanging off of the balcony off to the side so when you walk down the stairs it would kind of give that feeling that it's surrounded by a bunch of plants around there, and then the top level you can have different plant pots up there too. I think there should be enough space to at least fit a couple of them in. I did use a lot of the romantic garden stuff pack, which made landscaping very easy. And I really loved the red, so I used red throughout the entire landscape. I think it came out really pretty, and it does feel like my sort of dream house too, which I mean, it's at least my dream landscape. I would love to live in a place where you walk outside and you have all these pathways lined with flowers. It would be miserable to maintain and take care of, but this is such a huge house that I feel like if you could afford this house, you could afford to hire somebody to take care of the flowers for you because there is a lot of them. And I was supposed to do sort of like a dream cottage build because it is my birthday this week. Depending on what day I upload this, it might be my birthday today. I don't know. My birthday's on the 22nd. So whenever that falls with this, but I was going to do like a little dream cottage build and then I wasn't really feeling too well, so I couldn't get around to building much. which that idea can always just be saved for another time eventually. I have some other stuff I want to work on before that, so I'll revisit that eventually. But this can act as my own little dream home with a really beautiful garden. And you can see I'm like kind of going all over the place. I'm going like from the front to the back of the build because I really just wasn't sure how I wanted to connect the place yet. And I wanted it to feel dynamic and have different layers in the landscape. And so I have the porch, and then there is a second level that is fenced off. And then you go down more stairs, and it would be just the rest of the landscape. So I was trying to pull that off and see how it would work. And I end up defining some of the different levels using just base game rocks to create rock gardens, which normally I would just be lazy and I would place a bunch of debug large rocks with tool mod, and that would be how I would create some sort of definition in the landscape. But in real life, I have this rock garden that I just kind of put together this summer, and it was really pretty. And so every time I'm landscaping now, I'm just like, these Sims deserve the same pretty rock garden where you have like the large rocks that you line up and you fill with all different sorts of flowers. And now that I'm looking at this build again, I do think that when I get around to adding more lots in and families in for my own gameplay save, I think I'm going to use this build in the neighborhood. It's like I got to a couple generations in, and I was just talking to my friend about this of how it's always like 2 to 3 generations in, and all of the regular townies are gone now, and then the worlds feel very empty and messy. And I really do need to take the time to maybe add some more Sims in. And this one matches, I feel like, the building style that I've been using for my gameplay save, which makes sense. I kind of just build whatever I'm like in the mood to build in that moment. And sometimes I go through phases of kind of building similar things over and over again, just different shapes and sizes. And this feels like another continuation of the last like few builds that I've made for my own gameplay. But I did learn that I build very differently when I have gameplay in my head while I'm building, because for a very long time my building style has always been build what looks pretty and functionality is like secondary, and if it's not functional then I just apologize for it not being very like useful for gameplay. But when I'm actually building with the purpose that this is going to be used for someone's gameplay or my own gameplay, I definitely take a different approach, which is also why I actually mapped out the shape of it a little bit beforehand, and I needed to make sure that it was large enough to fit a family of 3, because that is always going to be a challenge for me, is building a house that is big enough and isn't just 1 to 2 bedrooms. And when I say 1 to 2 bedrooms, I mean 1 to 2 very tiny bedrooms too, because I always build like naturally smaller houses. That's just like how it ends up working out. And so when I'm building something like this, I guess it tends to look similar to other builds that I've built with that in mind too. And this was the part I was talking about where I wanted to create sort of a land bridge. And so technically the pathway itself isn't raised up, but the fence pieces that's supposed to sort of be the sides of the bridge are raised up, and it's like makes it look like it's arching a little bit. And that was the vision for it. I think it definitely works just like at a first glance. It's like, oh yeah, that definitely looks like a bridge. Maybe if I put some like wood down over there. I don't know. I think maybe it's fine. I'm thinking about Animal Crossing and when people would make their land bridges. So you know what? Sometimes you got to get creative because you can't do everything you want to in games. I think that's the closest that I can come up with for something similar to that. And now I'm just filling in some empty spaces. I may not have had Toolmod installed at first. There's been so many updates, and I think that's also something that's been making it difficult for me to just like build and remain on a schedule, because my schedule kind of got thrown out for a little bit. And now I'm trying to get back into things. And constant updates and me having to take out my mods, it throws me off so much more too. So it's been difficult. But October's almost here, which is going to be really nice. And I'm really excited to build a lot of stuff for that. And I do have a build that's part of a Simmers collab, which will just be werewolves and base game. So I'm excited to share that next week, I think. Yeah. So next week I'll have that, and it makes me think that I might do some more builds during October of base game and an occult, the like pack only build. I did want to try and do a Halloween inspired occult build using packs that like have nothing to do with occults, but maybe that's like ambitious, and I don't even know how that would turn out or what packs I would use, but that's something that I've been kind of thinking about wanting to do. And it's like I have all these ideas, and I really, really hope that I can manage the energy and the time to be able to do all of them. And, but like, say I don't do all of this in October, I'll just do it the rest of the year anyway. So it really doesn't matter at that point. And now I am like actually doing the pathways for this build, which always kind of intimidates me, and I tend to save the paths towards the end because sometimes it will also disappear, which is really frustrating. And so I kind of hold off for as long as possible before actually mapping out pathways like this. And I did have to change this area when I realized that I wanted the fenced in parts for animals and stuff so that animals aren't wandering everywhere and they could be like a little bit contained. So it wasn't like too much trouble, but I did have to change some stuff. And I did want to make sure that there was a place for this treehouse item because I thought that the daughter had an aspiration and create a sim that had sort of like a treehouse on it. And so I wasn't sure if that aspiration required having that item. So I just like threw one in, and I like the look of it anyway, even if it's not built as a treehouse. And if they don't want that treehouse, it would free up a lot of space if they didn't actually need it, and then they could like put in a smaller tree and some other gardening spaces. But yeah, this is where I was like, okay, I need to do the fence, and now I need to try and move this farmland over somewhere and see if I could even fit all of it in, which I didn't. I had to delete some, but that's okay too. There's like plenty of other spaces to just put some pots around and it'll like work out. And the first part of this build is practically done. It's just a little bit more of me placing some more details around, also adding some lights into the landscape. But I did want to thank everybody for being patient with me, especially in the last month where my videos have been a little bit all over the place and a lot of like I think every single one has been delayed at some point. And so I really appreciate the kind words and support with like helping me to get back to a place in my schedule that feels comfortable for me and doable because I really do love uploading, and it like is a little bit discouraging when I just like can't seem to get myself in a place where I can easily do it without like really just like stressing, which is unfortunate. But I'm like really wanting to get to a consistent place again for my own comfort so that I can continue to share videos that I really love to do. And I love building in The Sims, so it would be nice to be back on a stable routine for myself to be able to do all of that. And this build was a really good one to start to get myself back in the flow of building. Because sometimes I also like if I don't build consistently, sometimes think I forget how to build. And this one allowed me to just build from my head and be able to like just like have something flow on a lot that made me feel like, yeah, I'm still capable of doing this sort of thing, even if it's been difficult to like do it as quickly as I usually can. I'm getting there though, and so it was nice to build something that I could just zone out with and really just do my own thing and not have to follow any sort of inspiration and stuff. So I really appreciated that VingedHeart just let me have creative freedom for this build and just do whatever I felt worked and what I thought would be fitting for her family. And I really do love how this is coming out. I think the interior is going to be really cool and a lot of fun to complete too. And I'm really sorry if everyone made it this far and this voiceover felt very all over the place in terms of energy and my tone. It took me a while to do this voiceover. I had jaw pain because I slept really weird, and so I couldn't like fully do a voiceover for like a very long amount of time in each sitting. But I'm feeling better now, and so that shouldn't be a problem. But I'm sure that it might sound a little bit weird, and that's my explanation for why it might seem all over the place. But I also always assume that if you're watching this far into the video, that those things don't really matter to you, which really means a lot to me, so I really do appreciate it. And I don't have too many screenshots today because this is just the exterior, but I will see everybody soon, and thank you for watching. Bye.